David, a man after God's own heart, knew what it meant to fail. His life was filled with moments of triumph, but also with seasons of deep fear and uncertainty. David was not just a legendary king or a mighty warrior. He was also a man who experienced real pain, betrayal, and loneliness. He understood what it was like to be hunted, to feel abandoned, and to wonder if he would survive another day. In Psalm 57, we find him hiding in a cave. The walls around him are cold and damp, the darkness pressing in. He is not in a palace surrounded by loyal subjects, but in a place of fear and uncertainty, forced to seek shelter from those who wish him harm. Can you imagine? A king, on the run, afraid for his life. The very man who once stood victorious over Goliath now finds himself fleeing through the wilderness, his heart pounding with anxiety. Every sound outside the cave could mean danger. Every shadow might be an enemy. The weight of responsibility and fear must have been overwhelming. His own son, Absalom, was trying to kill him and take the kingdom. The pain of betrayal by someone he loved and trusted would have cut deeper than any sword. David was not just running from faceless enemies. He was running from his own flesh and blood, from a son he had raised and cherished. The heartbreak and confusion must have been immense. It would be easy for David to despair. He could have focused on the danger, the betrayal, the fear. He could have let the darkness of the cave mirror the darkness in his soul. Many of us in moments of crisis are tempted to give in to hopelessness, to let our circumstances define us. David had every reason to feel defeated, to question his purpose, to wonder if God had abandoned him. But instead, David chose to turn to God. In the midst of his fear, he lifted his voice in prayer. He remembered God's faithfulness even when everything around him seemed to be falling apart. David's response was not to give up, but to seek refuge in the one who had always been his protector. He poured out his heart, trusting that God would hear him, even from the depths of a cave. This psalm, written in the darkness of a cave, is a powerful testament to the fact that even when we are surrounded by trouble, we can still find refuge in God. David's story reminds us that no matter how desperate our situation may seem, we are never truly alone. In our darkest moments, when hope feels distant, we can turn to God and find light, comfort, and strength. The cave was not just a place of hiding. It became a place of encounter, where David's faith was deepened and his trust in God renewed. Even in the cave, David didn't lose sight of God's love and protection. Surrounded by darkness and uncertainty, he could have easily given in to fear or despair. But instead, David chose to focus on the faithfulness of God, remembering all the times he had been rescued before. The cave, though cold and lonely, became a place of prayer and trust, a sanctuary where David poured out his heart and found hope in God's promises. In his Psalms, David writes, "I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings until the disaster has passed." This powerful image shows how David saw God as a loving protector, just like a mother bird who gathers her chicks under her wings to keep them safe from harm. Even when everything around him felt dangerous and uncertain, David trusted that God's presence would be his shelter. David knew that even though his situation was scary, God was bigger. He understood that God's strength and care were greater than any threat he faced. Instead of letting fear control him, David chose to look up with hope, believing that God would see him through the darkest times. His faith gave him courage to keep going, even when he felt alone. Like a mother bird protects her young, God would shield David from harm. The image of strong, gentle wings covering fragile chicks is a reminder that God's protection is both powerful and tender. No matter how fierce the storm or how great the danger, David believed that God's love would surround him and keep him safe. This image of God's wings is so comforting. It speaks of warmth, safety, and belonging. When we feel afraid or alone, we can remember that God invites us to rest in His care, just as a bird gathers her young close. His presence brings peace to our hearts, even in the middle of life's storms. It reminds us that no matter what storms we face, we can find safety and peace in His presence. Just as David found hope in the cave, we too can trust that God is always near, ready to shelter us with His love. When we take refuge in Him, we discover a deep sense of security and comfort that nothing in this world can take away. David praises God's love, saying, "Your love is higher than the heavens, your faithfulness reaches to the skies." Think about that. God's love isn't just big, it's higher than the heavens. His faithfulness, His promises, they reach beyond what we can even imagine. This is the God we serve, a God whose love knows no bounds, whose faithfulness never fails. David reminds us that God is not distant in our suffering. He is our refuge, our fortress, our deliverer. He promises to send help, to lift us up, and to bring us victory. These promises are not just for David, they are for us today. When we face our own caves, times of fear, uncertainty, or pain, we can cling to these truths. We can remind ourselves of God's character, His power, and His unwavering love for us. Psalm 57 is more than just a song written by a king in hiding. It's a heartfelt cry that echoes through the ages, capturing the raw emotions of fear, uncertainty, and hope. Imagine David, alone and pursued, yet still lifting his voice in praise. His words are not just ancient poetry, they are a living testimony that speaks to us today, reminding us that even in our darkest moments, we are not alone. It's a timeless message of hope for all of us. No matter where we come from or what we're going through, the promise of God's presence and love remains unchanged. Each new sunrise brings with it the assurance that hope is never out of reach, and that we can find light even after the longest night. It reminds us that no matter what we face, God is with us. Whether we're surrounded by friends or feeling isolated, whether we're celebrating victories or enduring hardships, His presence is constant. In moments of weakness, He offers strength. In times of sorrow, He brings comfort. He is our refuge, our strength, and our deliverer. When the world feels overwhelming, we can run to Him and find shelter. He lifts us up when we stumble and guides us. When the path ahead seems uncertain, His love is a fortress that cannot be shaken. So today, whatever you may be facing, choose to trust God. Let your heart be anchored in His promises, and let your spirit be renewed by His faithfulness. Even when doubts arise, remember that you are held in His hands. Find refuge in His presence. Remember His promises. Take a moment to pause, breathe, and reflect on the ways He has carried you before, and trust that He will do it again. In the stillness, you'll find peace that surpasses understanding. He is faithful, and He will never leave you nor forsake you. Let this song of hope fill your heart today, and may you walk forward with courage, knowing that you are never